Okay. We'll call to order the Street Advisory Board meeting for February 10th. Thank you all for joining us. Mr. City Manager, do you know the folks that are here?
No.
I don't think so.
You know, you guys.
No, Fleet Hall. Okay.
Nick Barrows.
Dick Kelly's owner.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Jerry Morgan.
All right, hey Jay.
I'm Brad McLean, Director of Human Resources.
Well, that's an informal roll call, but we'll do an official roll call. Rachel, if you don't mind.
Okay, Nick Barrows.
Here.
Ralph Paulson. Ralph Smear. Clea Hall.
Here.
Charles Gentry.
Here.
No, Gary Color.
Yes, Gary's right behind
Gary
you.
Color is here. Okay. Is that all?
That's it.
Here,
That's it.
we got a place for him here.
Randy Bolton, another member, advising he is going to be resigning from the board. So we're going to pass that email on to the city commission so that they can then fill that opening. So
Who's that?
Randy Bolton and Brian Allen. I understand may still have some health issues going on. So,
Yeah.
That's why he's not here. He's our other member. Have all of you received a copy through email of the minutes of our December meeting?
Yes.
No,
No. Okay.
I have not.
I'm going to stretch out here.
I had an agenda, but I didn't get that.
Okay. I need a second to look those over, Gary.
You have that?
I don't.
I can go print one.
Okay.
Go grab one out of my.
Okay. While Gary is reading, any of the others here have any suggestions, corrections, changes to those minutes? And I think you're aware we did not have a January meeting because we did not have a quorum. We had some health and COVID issues.
COVID issues.
So
I had COVID.
yeah. Ralph, you need a set of minutes to look over, or have you already looked them over?
I looked at them online, but that was yesterday, and I forgot it.
Oh, okay. Well, she's bringing you an extra copy.
Okay, good, because my printer doesn't work, I couldn't print it out. Thank you. That was for December.
That's good to me. You need a motion?
We're going to give Ralph one more minute to refresh his memory. Look familiar? Okay, all right. If there are no questions or corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Gary Colors moved and Cleet has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Those minutes are approved. Now, to old business. In the last couple of meetings we've had, we have been asked to focus our attention on the designation of our main trafficway designations for Fort Scott, also known as arterial streets. There are several reasons, I think, why this was asked of us, and so we took some time to do our own reflecting on it and thinking about which are our streets that are considered to be main traffic ways, and we then discussed that at our meeting in December and came up with a list of streets that we believe meet the criteria for an arterial street. Now, what we are doing is making a recommendation, of course, to the City Commission as to which streets we would consider to be those arterial or main traffic ways. It turns out that by state law, the local jurisdictions have the authority to designate arterial streets. And there is no statutory criteria for that other than a reference to those streets that are considered to be major streets designated according to the statute by local authorities within their respective jurisdictions. So there is technically not anything about traffic count. There's nothing about the width of the street. There's nothing about whether it's brick or asphalt or gravel. None of that. It's whatever the local jurisdiction, which would be our city commission. So with your permission, the board's permission, I went ahead and prepared a memo, which we talked about at our last meeting, and I asked that that be sent out for your review. Have you all received that? It's a proposed memo to the city commission from us to them. Have you all received this? Yes. Okay. Were there any, now since sending this out, there has been one suggested addition, and it came from Cleet. Cleet, you had one other street, I believe, that you felt, at least compared to these others, fell into that same category of being a main traffic way.
Yes, that was Franklin Street.
Franklin Street. Okay, very good. Is there any objection to adding Franklin Street? This would be from Wall Street north to the city limit?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Which really is the main way getting northwest of town into the...
It gets a lot of traffic.
Right. Okay. All right. Are there any changes or corrections or clarifications you feel would be necessary to our proposed memo to the city?
Not on that.
No.
Other than adding Franklin. Okay. Well, in that case, I will entertain a formal motion to approve with the addition of Franklin to this list, adding this to our memo and submitting it to the city commission as our recommendation.
I would move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. What I will do with your permission, since I have this on my word processor, is go ahead and add Franklin to our list and reprint this and get it back to Rachel so that it can be, yeah. And I am perfectly comfortable in bringing this to the city commission if they're willing to put it on as an agenda item. I will not be long-winded, but I will be glad to at least explain what we did and how we did it and why. So,
Do you want on Tuesday's agenda?
that Tuesday next? Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
What time is that meeting?
6 o'clock.
Okay.
And I can get with Diane after the meeting and let her know.
Is that going to be okay for that?
Yeah, we haven't done the agenda. We haven't finalized the agenda, so as far as I know, as far as
I know.
she,
Right.
as far as I know, she will be fine with it.
Okay.
Have to ask.
Well, I know that sometimes your agendas are super duper busy and sometimes not so much. So,
I honestly don't know this.
okay. All right.
And if you want me to go step out now and ask, I can, or I can ask after the meeting, whatever you want to do, Charles.
Okay. Well, we just ask after the meeting, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Now, Cleet, as you were bringing up the Franklin Street, this may be a little bit outside of our street advisory board guardrails here, but you would also raise some concerns about speed limit
Speeding.
and the whatever violation of the speeding laws are. on Franklin.
There's two 30-mile speed zones there.
Okay.
It's at the starting at where Wall and Franklin's at,
Okay.
and there's one down by the city limits.
Okay.
And they don't pay attention to it.
Okay. Okay.
Now I say they. There's a few that doesn't pay any attention to it.
By they, you mean the drivers that
Yeah,
buzz up and
right.
down? Okay. Okay. Well, Mr. City Manager, is this the sort of thing that at least could be passed on to our police department as a citizen concern about speeding on Franklin? Thank you. All right. Now, at our last meeting, which we didn't have because we didn't have a quorum, we did receive Pothole Report from the city staff. And some of these I know have already now been completed. So would you mind just briefly catching us up to date on what's happened since this report was prepared? Is your red light on there? There you go.
Yeah, we did a bunch of holes and a drain there on Crawford by Miller's Feed into the south. There were several holes we did. I believe we posted them on social media.
Great.
Some pictures of them and stuff. Yeah, we did this hole right outside City Hall here. And we do have more plans. We're going to go on north of Miller's Feed down that road. It's in pretty bad shape.
Okay.
We're going to do some more brick holes up there starting Monday. So,
Okay. Now, most of the ones, if you're doing it on brick, involve, of course, removing the brick and then doing some digging, some base work, and then a concrete pad. Is that my understanding?
yes.
With sand on top of that?
Yes,
And
we will dig it down 7 inches below the surface or below the brick, below the bottom of the brick. Bring it up 6 inches, reinforced concrete, inch of sand, and then lay the brick on top of that.
Okay, all right. So you needed to catch a little good weather to do that, I assume?
Yes, as long as it don't get too cold where we can blanket the concrete,
Right,
we can do it.
right. And I
We
noticed that.
we can pour it as long as it's 30 and rising. So.
Okay, gotcha. All right. All right.
Out of for my curiosity, after the bricks are laid, does anything get brushed on top of those, or are they just packed tightly?
Yeah,
and
we
just-
brush sand
Okay.
over top of them, like those bricks we did on Crawford. We left a sand pile there. Then Monday when we go back to start the other brick holes, the guys will push that sand back out and go over the holes again,
Okay.
just to help pack it in tighter.
Great, great. More of these we do, the better we get at doing it too, right?
Yeah.
I assume.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Have you actually completed the block over there? Where were you saying you have done them?
We've done it from Wall Street to First Street. We went through there and completed some bad holes that was sinking out of sight. And it's hurting vehicles. So
That's good to hear. That's
Mhm.
progress.
And I'm glad to hear you're posting this on social media so that the folks can actually see,
Yeah.
can read about it and see that these things are happening. So,
Mhm.
because if you're not, a person regularly driving that area, you might not know.
Mhm.
So this is a good thing. Okay. And I assume that the pothole list will continue to be upgraded and updated.
oh yeah,
Is that right?
it continues to get longer at this
Continue to
point
get
in time.
I have one. It's a very small area. It may not even require the extensive kind of treatment you're talking about, but there are some loose bricks. I'm going to describe them as just on 3rd Street, just south of Memorial Hall.
Yes,
It's like somebody
actually,
hit it and popped up a few bricks, and it's just not going to heal itself. So
last week, I think it was just before the snow hit, the guys went and fixed that hole.
they
Because
did.
we was worried about catching it with a plow
Oh yeah.
and making it worse. So
Okay, very good.
Yeah,
You're
they
ahead
went-
of us then.
they
Yeah.
went and fixed it real quick before
Good.
we got the snow. So
All right. Anything else that we needed to add as far as any input from advisory board members on our pothole situation?
Not on potholes, but I have noticed National East National, it is loaded with cracks, and we're going to lose that if we don't take care of it. Because there's cracks all over it that need to be sealed.
Okay. Okay. Is that on our radar, would you say?
As soon as we get the crack sealer out.
Yeah.
We actually met this week with the streets teams, and so just as soon as the weather gets, they're going to be running full tilt. We got a load of crack sealer in, and they'll be running it pretty much every day they can. Until then, we're going to be lifting brick. We'll have probably a couple, 2 or 3 crews out there doing that. So we thought in the next month we'll be lifting brick and then go to crack seal and pothole and run the pothole machine, and then we'll stay on that until it gets too hot. And they'll probably, have other things to do during that time, but, like catching up on the grass and different things. But anyway, we're strategizing our staff. Yeah.
Great, great, very good. Okay, anything else under old business? Let's move on to new then. First item has to do with the follow-up, really, and whether we need to follow up with the city on our recommendations for the actually it should be 2021 and 2022 streets. In terms of what we characterize it as capital improvement. And one of those is Horton Street, which was on the 2021 list and didn't happen. And we're hoping that it will be on the 2022 list. And our concern that it just seems to get pushed back, and it was our priority in 2021, one of them, Cooper Street being another one. But can we get any further report on where we are going with Horton?
Just met with Rob, what's Rob's last name? Harrington, through Economic Development. We are resubmitting a cost share grant to KDOT for Harrington's Horton Street. And then we're also working on a connecting link grant on Wall Street. So anyway, both those streets are targeted for grant funding this year. So we're trying to get those in first of the year so we can go at those streets this year.
Would those then be on the 2022?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's what we're working on. Yeah, trying to. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And Cooper, just a report for you on Cooper. We're waiting on Evergy. We met with them, I think, in January. Pete and I went out there with Jason Dickman, and we met with them, and they said it'd be sometime 1st of March, I think, before they could look at relocating the poles so we could actually start moving forward on Cooper Street again.
Right.
So
Great.
we got to get those poles out of that, what would be moved to further out of the easement so we can move that street. But yeah, that is moving forward too.
All right. Very good. Well, I know that I mean, it's been a while since anything has been done on Horton. I've heard different time frames on when it was last milled and overlaid. Is that going to be, would that be significant in terms of your grant application?
Yeah, Pete and I met with KDOT engineers, and shortly after I got here, I had KDOT engineers come down, one of them that I'd worked with before. And they said the only reason we missed it last year was the grant looked good, everything looked good. We just didn't have letters of support. So got myself, Rob, and one of the commissioners reaching out to folks up and down Horton Street to get those letters of support and then submitting that. So yeah, it came close last year, and in fact the engineer said he pulled it to see if there was an issue, and he said it looked really good, but there were no letters of support. So that's what we're working on to get that back in. So anyway, but yeah, the plan is mill and overlay. Yeah.
And once those letters are obtained,
Mm-hmm.
It's still going to be a 2022 project.
That's the plan. Yeah.
That's the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Because it's been 11 years since that's
Question,
been.
how many
Has it
letters
been that
of
long?
support do they need?
I don't know, but I'm sure probably one is not enough, and three or more probably. So I reached out to Alyssa at the college, and then some of them are reaching out to others. So yeah, so we want to get some key players, some of our stakeholders up and down that street. So
Right. I'm sure they'd be glad.
Now,
yeah,
are we talking about Horton Street from 6th Street to Lincoln Drive?
That's what it
Or
was
just
last
the,
time.
or just the two
yeah.
blocks?
What had been targeted? We're actually sending in the same grant that they targeted last year.
Yeah, they, I think they backed off, they was gonna do from 6th to 8th Street. But they backed off on that, because there was some utility work that had to be done.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's ever been completed or not.
The last time it was done from 6th Street to Lakin.
Right.
And then
Right.
then the following year, it was done from Lakin to 23rd.
Okay.
So that first area, that 6th to Lakin has been now close to 11 years since I've seen different numbers thrown around about how, but it actually was 11 years.
What I
So-
can do is get your email after we get done, and I'll send you that copy of that grant application.
Okay.
I asked for Jason Dickman to send that to me so we could actually reapply with that same grant, but just retrofit it for this year.
Right.
So I can send you a copy of that so you'll know exactly what we're applying for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Anything else in regards to any further recommendations to city commission? We're going to get to brick streets here in just a minute, but so as it stands now, I'll be taking our arterial street designation to them hopefully next Tuesday. Is there anything else that the board wants me to present to the city?
How are we progressing with respect to the, we've been targeting special streets to work on. And maybe with the past winter, it might change the route a little bit. Does anyone have anything to say about further study of the needs of the various sections of the streets?
If
Any comment? I'm sorry? Any
Well,
comment, Matthew?
Ralph, excuse me, I did want to get city manager caught up on what we had. We also did our own survey, street survey and recommendation to city commission for the 2022, right?
Okay.
So
okay.
we're behind. We're at Horton. We're still 21. Now we're 22.
Okay.
And what we did is we used a criteria based upon the condition of the road, traffic volume, and location. Okay. And we went through a several meeting process with narrowing it down and then voting on which were in our Hall of Shame. Okay.
Okay.
So we had reported to the commissioners for the 2022 year, Broadway Street from Wall to Charles. That was one. Number two, Crawford Street from Third to Wall. Part of that's already being addressed.
Brick. Yeah,
Number
we
three-
discussed that one, yeah.
Right. Number three was Crescent Drive, Archer to Linden, up in what we used to call Pirtle Edition, Hillview Edition, up on the hill, up on Margaret. That was three. Four was East 10th Street, and that's going to be between the railroad tracks and Margrave. It's a fairly short area, but it's concrete. We're to make it match up, but that's in we thought in bad enough shape. And then number five was Main Street, starting at 6th and working north, kind of in front of the school board, right? If you get a block at a time, kind of working our way up through into the downtown area. So Broadway, Crawford, Crescent Drive, East 10th Street, and Main Street, in that order, were the ones that we had voted as, in our judgment, based upon that criteria, as being most in need of attention.
Okay.
We joke about throwing a dart at a map, and if it hits a street, it's going to need to be fixed, but we're trying to do our best to help focus in a little bit. So anyway,
yeah, that can really help our street team that we just spoke to about fixing the brick. And now the asphalt ones, they have rated them, and we can probably get those on our list to get taken care of this year too.
oh,
So,
great.
yeah,
That'd be wonderful.
and I mean that I think that's what we wanted to do is have you guys front this, get this to our street crew, and then they can mix it with their notes and start using your advisement as well to cover those streets and anything else we can get to.
Okay.
So,
Good idea.
yeah, well, that way, now we're working together. It's you guys are helping us with the vision of that, and that way they don't have to go out and search as hard as like, okay, we're going to go do these, and that's so it makes it a lot more smoothly.
Right. And again, unless it changes our criteria, going down the road, and we're trying to do it a year ahead so that grant questions, funding questions, all of that can be fully vetted.
Yeah, and I don't
We're
think
not
there's a
done.
lot of grant funding on brick, but on the other.
Right.
Arterials are the ones that we're wanting because they have at least a base, and we want to keep them at a measurable thickness.
Right.
Some of the others that we're just going to do the cape seal on, but at least we can pothole them and start bringing that surface back together.
Right.
So any of that, absolutely, we want to use these guys as advisement on that.
We've, I think, made it clear to each other that we are not engineers, and we are not about deciding what treatment and how.
Sure.
I mean, we're just identifying, these are the ones that we
Yeah.
think are in most need of our mercy right now.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, and in that, we can, like I said, we can figure. I mean, obviously the brick streets we want to raise that we're going to, and the others, arterials, we want to actually get full depth on some of them. And in that year, if it's such, we may have to cut some of those out. So we've talked about that too, and bring in some hot patch. So, but yeah, please don't stop doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think this list was presented to the city commission, who approved it. Now, it's always subject to change because
Okay.
things happen. We
Yeah.
get that. But if you need for me to submit to whomever,
Yeah,
an extra
I
copy of
haven't
that
seen a
list,
copy
I
of
would
it,
like
so
to do
I
it.
think Jerry and I would like to have a copy of that.
Another copy of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't have one, but we'd like to.
I'll
We
get
can
one
get
to
one
you.
when you get done. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do
We got a
it.
copy right outside.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll do it.
Yeah.
All right. Hi there.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay. Matt Wells, Commissioner Matt Wells, is joining us as, I believe, the person designated by the city commission to come and present to us an issue or question that the city commission has with regard to brick streets. And so, Matt, you want to tell us what's on the radar for the brick streets?
Yes.
You're welcome to join us up here at the table because you'll have a microphone.
There's
for
one
you.
there.
I have 8 copies of this stuff right here. For anyone who wants one, I can make more copies for anybody else who wants any of that stuff. Just take a look. So there's 3 things that I wanted to bring to y'all and make sure that I can have y'all's help with. The predominant one is establishing some areas throughout the city that we can claim as historic street areas. This will allow us to make sure that we can designate those areas of the utmost preservation and allow us to apply for some additional grants that will be available from the state and from the federal government, because we're claiming those as historic districts. And this is something that a lot of other cities have done, is establish these historic districts or historic homes areas or historic street areas, whatever we decide we want to call that. And that's something I'm asking for y'all's help with, is to help us identify these areas where we want to set a lot of make them a priority to save the brick streets. I know that everyone, I think who's sitting around this table, agrees that the brick streets are vital to our community and we've got to save them. So that top page you'll see is the brick street amendment that I would like to have added to a maintenance program that Pete has brought forward, that we're looking at with the city as far as chip sealing, fog sealing, a lot of these roads. So this is something, just wanted you all to have a copy of. It's something I've already presented to the other city commissioners. But that's a copy of it. The second thing in there is, it starts out, why should we preserve our brick streets? This is a lot of the research that I've been doing about why I feel it's important for us to save the brick streets. All of you, if you will, read through it. I'm welcoming any of y'all's input and ideas to add to this. I've not presented this to the city commission yet, so this is a work in progress, but I value each one of your opinions as far as what I'm trying to accomplish and what we're all trying to accomplish with the city. So in it, I lay out why I feel like we should preserve and reclaim the brick streets. I lay out the economics of the brick streets according to some studies that have been done. This one was from Columbia, Missouri. Life expectancy on brick streets versus asphalt and concrete, the cost of doing those brick streets, and that's something that I find is extremely important to pay attention to. So the cost to remove and replace any street with concrete runs about $95 a square yard. The cost to remove and brick street with asphalt is another cost that I don't have listed, but I'll get that. But using our historic salvage brick pavers, we're looking at $125 per square yard to repave this, pull up the bricks, fix what needs to be fixed, and repave it. Then I have another cost below that of using historic brick pavers that we can buy from 2 different locations that I found that make historic brick pavers like ours. We have a huge backlog right now of brick streets, but I'm just presenting this information. And then also a cost using modern brick pavers. I list in here how it improves the property values of all the homes that are around the brick streets. It improves the property value of the lots that are on these brick streets. You'll see that historic districts receive a sales premium of 131% over comparable properties in undesignated neighborhoods. So that's another benefit we get from listing these areas as historic homes districts or historic street districts, is the property values in those areas will immediately go up. We see that even vacant lots, undeveloped lots, have a 200% return on a normal lot in town because of the desire of people to build within those brick street areas. Then I talk about the historic streets in town. I talk about the break even in recovery on maintenance costs. So you'll see there's a graph that I got again from the city of Columbia, because they have a study that they have done over the last 40 years on the brick streets that they have been restoring in Columbia. You'll see that the cost for modern brick pavers or reclaimed brick pavers stays equal over a 105-year cycle. But you'll see that the cost on asphalt skyrockets, because every 12 to 15 years the asphalt has to be milled and overlaid, as well as the continual maintenance, chip sealing, all of that. And you'll see that concrete goes up as well. So you have 40 years on a concrete road before you start to see an ROI, return on investment. You have 70 years on an asphalt road before you start to see an ROI because of the continual maintenance cost associated with asphalt. So you see an economic savings. And this is one thing I want to stress to y'all and to everyone else that we can make hear our voices. Economically, it makes better sense for us to save our brick streets than it does to tear up a brick street or to overlay a brick street with asphalt or the chip seal process. And that's proven by what they did in Wilmington, North Carolina. They have shown where they've been restoring brick streets and peeling the asphalt off the brick streets and restoring the brick streets, they are already seeing cost savings from doing this. So from tearing off the asphalt and restoring the bricks that were under the asphalt, the city of Wilmington, North Carolina has already shown that there's huge savings. And they've got a whole study that they've done about it. One other thing is that it makes the traffic calmer. This is from a case study from Winter Park, Florida. It shows the average speed drops down on brick roads from 41 to 29 miles per hour, which is great for residential areas. And that there has been 0 accidents in this study since the brick streets were restored in Winter Park, Florida. 0 accidents on the brick streets. I don't know if we have that same thing around here, but this is just from a case study that they did. So then I have the 2 places where we can buy historic brick pavers should we need, and then I have a list of my references and everything. After that, you'll see a page about the brick street policy that I'm laying out to bring forward to the city on how we look at our brick streets, what we decide, where we will save them, and where we won't. Because we have to be realistic on one or two areas, and that's that any roadway that has a VSD, a vehicle daily allowance of more than 4,000, that's not gonna be a road that we wanna invest in maintaining the bricks on because of the amount of traffic on it. But we can trade out, if that's a road that's gonna continue to deteriorate, and salvage the bricks off of that road to restore another brick road in town somewhere else. And then set that road up as a main traffic way. So when we look at what y'all are talking about with the arterial roads and the feeder roads, those are roads where our efforts to save the bricks are not gonna be beneficial. But an additional road, Clark, something else that has bricks underneath it, that will be an area where we can spend time and see a greater ROI, return on investment, for what we're doing saving the brick streets throughout the town by not trying to save the brick street, let's say on 6th Street. Because we all know that 6th Street predominantly, very large sections are brick underneath asphalt. So restoring those to a brick street on 6th Street is not something that's gonna be beneficial to the city. Broadway's the same way. Broadway is brick underneath that asphalt. But Broadway is gonna be a road where it's not, in my eyes, gonna be beneficial because of the amount of traffic and the heavy truck traffic that travels down those roads that would be beneficial in saving. So I asked you guys to take a look through this, see what I'm presenting here, see if you have any ideas or additional information that you would like me to include. And then I lay out kind of the ideas on what I would like to see us established as a brick street preservation ordinance for Fort Scott. So I'm gonna be asking the city before long to set this up as what we do on preserving our brick streets, how we go about preserving our brick streets, and what we dictate as a brick street that we wanna save. So I'm asking you all for your input on that as well. I was appointed by the city commission to get with you all to have your input on all of these ideas and to help us decide which roads we think are gonna be most beneficial to direct to savings. Because like you said, Crawford Street and Main Street, those are two brick streets right now that you have on your list that we need to address and need to repair. And what we don't want to do is do anything to those brick streets other than save those brick streets. And in certain areas, we're gonna see, and I've got photographic evidence on at least 2 sections in town that I've been able to find through digging through historic photos of when they were restoring these streets back in the early 1900s. They do have a concrete base on some of these streets, but I don't know how many. I know for a fact on Wall Street, between Main and National, that there is a concrete base down underneath there, and then it has 3 to 5 inches of sand, and then the bricks on top, which is one reason with all the heavy traffic that flows up and down Wall Street, that particular section of road is done so well. Now you'll see off to the side there where there's that one manhole cover, where they did some road repair a while back when they were pouring in that new alley, and they did not put concrete underneath it. And you can tell right where they did not put the concrete base because all those bricks have sunk down around that manhole. But the rest of Wall Street, if you dig down underneath that sand, I've got, like I said, photographic evidence on those 2 sections. I know that there's a concrete base down underneath there. And so that's something that we need to keep in mind, that we do have some sections of road. I just, as of right now, don't know how many sections of road have that concrete base. Those are gonna be the ones that last in the best section. Pete directed me to a section of Eddy Street that had repaired down where they put a concrete base under it. And was that done back in the 80s? Is that what you said?
80s or 90s, late
Yeah.
80s probably.
Late 80s. That section of road is absolutely beautiful now, still. So any of those sections of brick where we can restore these roads the right way are gonna last indefinite. We're talking another 100 years, we're gonna get out of these bricks. Much longer, according to the studies that I've seen from over in Europe. They've got brick roads where they put that concrete base in, and they're looking at 500 years now on these brick roads.
Wow.
Occasionally patching a brick here and there, raising it up in a few areas. that is something that our town has, that not a lot of these other towns around us have. They may have a few brick roads here, there, yonder. You've got places back east now where they're using these modern brick pavers to go back in and pave new streets in brick because they know the cost savings of these bricks. They've seen it in their own studies. So I'm desperately asking you all to ask people around town to reach out to everyone that you know, bring forth the ideas on which areas we want to set up. I know what I would like to set up, but those are just my ideas. So I'm asking for y'all to help me present these areas that we can call these historic road districts, and we can get more money to fix those. The very last thing you'll see in there is something that I would like to see us maybe do, which is a survey that was done in Williamton, North Carolina, before they were looking at redoing their brick streets. They polled everybody within their community, and if you look at the responses they got, I mean, you're talking 80% on some of these, 75%. The people of the town were like, we want the bricks. And so far in this town, everyone that I have talked to, and I'm sure that there are people out there that might disagree with me, but I have not talked to them yet. Every single person that I have talked to has said, save the brick streets, save the brick streets, save the brick streets. And when we show the community how nice these brick streets can be just by raising a few areas and resanding them, I think we're going to get more community support. I know that there are organizations in town and that there are individuals in town who have already offered to help do restoration work on these brick streets. They're willing to get out and do what needs to be done to help save some of these brick streets. Now, there was a question about water infiltration through the bricks in certain areas and that disturbing the clay base, creating some degradation to the brick streets. So that's where I came up with the idea that if we can raise the bricks in a few areas, then we power wash the street. For right now, what we can do to help preserve the streets until we can get the financing to go through and do some of those major repairs that we're talking about, putting the concrete underneath where it needs to be, we can seal the bricks, brush in some polymeric sand, and that will stop all the water infiltration. So we don't have to worry about sealing some of these other brick streets that people are worried about with an asphalt coat or a tar coat or a chip seal coat. We can instead preserve them as brick streets for now until we can get the money to pull them up and do them the right way. So that's the information that I have. Any of you have any questions at all about anything that I've presented? You've all got your packets there to look through. I'm willing to answer any questions.
I have a couple quick questions.
Yes, sir.
The brick under asphalt streets, I think it was our understanding that if the bricks are currently under asphalt, those bricks are not salvageable.
That is not true at all.
Okay, so we wouldn't have to completely replace all those bricks. Can you just mill down to it without destroying the brick? Is that how?
So you have three different ways that I have found. Number one, you will see on a lot of these brick streets that were overlaid with asphalt, the asphalt is popping loose.
Right.
In fact, there's some streets, and Ralph can take you and show you, where with your bare hand you can grab a chunk of asphalt and pop it right off the bricks.
I brought some down here last
Yeah.
year. I just picked them up off the street.
Yeah, so a lot of this asphalt, because of the weight of the vehicles driving over it, a lot of it's gonna pop right loose. The second one is, yes, in areas where it has amazing adhesion, if we want to save those brick streets, we can mill the asphalt off and then flip the bricks over because they'll be perfectly fine on the other side still. So the bricks, again, are there. We can reuse those same bricks. The third one, and this is what Columbia, Missouri, and a couple of other cities did, was they pulled up the bricks, and where the asphalt was stuck to the bricks, they did what we're doing right now in coordination with our corrections facility. They took the bricks down to those guys, and the ones that wanted to go out and smoke cigarettes on their bricks, they set out there with a hammer and a chisel or a little air chisel and knock the asphalt off the brick.
Okay.
Clean them, stack them, and then they've been able to garner a ton of bricks to reuse that way.
So the bricks under those streets aren't a total throwaway. We would try to salvage those bricks.
That would be
Okay.
my hope and desire, and the information that I have found from multiple cities who've been doing this all say the same thing. Yes, you do not want to throw away that brick. If we want to get rid of that brick, there are towns standing in line right now
Mm-hmm.
that would buy the brick from us even with the asphalt on it, because they know that the quality of bricks. That's something that I found out through studying the history of the Fort Scott bricks. We were very lucky. The bricks that were made all came from a place called Red Hill, which was northwest of where the old brick plant used to be. That particular clay was extremely dense compared to the clay in other areas around here that made bricks. So our Fort Scott bricks are harder, denser, and stronger than almost every other brick made locally in this region. So I feel that our bricks, we should save every single one. But go ahead.
My other question is on, so any street that would get designated as in either the historic district or the street itself would be historic, and if they had the old stone curbs, would we be required to keep those, or can we update to a concrete curb and gutter for drainage?
I have not addressed the flagstone curbing.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that where the flagstone curb is, we would want to restore and maintain that flagstone curb, simply because, again, any of that historic stuff causes the property values of the homes to go up. Now, where the flagstone's already been tore out in those areas, we can go back with the concrete curb that's already there, or salvage the concrete curb that's there. But if it already has flagstone, I would say yes, let's say that would be mine. But again, I'm open to whatever you guys want to see.
But it wouldn't, I was just asking if it would be, it's not necessarily necessary to still be designated as a historic, that the entire street would have to remain. Okay.
The bricks are what would be instrumental, and that's what a lot of these other cities have been doing, is they're just saving that brick street with the money and then recurving and putting the gutters in, because they're using it as an opportunity again. When you get the proper storm drains, proper drainage to catch that runoff, then you're going to improve the lives of the streets anyway. There's another place down in Lafayette where one of the reasons they wanted to save the brick streets was because they were planning on the infiltration of the water through the brick streets to be beneficial to their stormwater systems, not having as much stormwater runoff go to the plant. I'm not suggesting that, because I don't necessarily believe that it's a good idea to allow all that water to run through the bricks. That's why I'm suggesting sealing them and putting the polymer sand down.
Wintertime. The last time you were here, Matthew, you were talking about the paving machines and
Yes,
so forth. Have you done any more research on that? And is it being done around the United States and the cost and so forth?
Yeah, other than to know that there are a couple places, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Chicago, they are using those brick paver machines. I'm sure that there are others, but they've been, the ones in Pittsburgh, they love the one that they have. They got the Dutch machine though, and it's a lot more expensive than the ones that I found that were sourced out of China. So the Dutch machine runs about $100,000. The ones coming out of China run anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000.
Maybe a reason.
Yes,
But
there may be a reason there. But
I assume you'll keep on contact of that on
yes,
top of it.
yeah, I keep looking at those, because those are something, I believe if we go to start pulling up the bricks on all the streets and relaying them, that's where I see a great benefit to that brick paver machine, because then literally one guy feeds the bricks in, stacks it, and that machine crawls along ever so slowly and screeds the sand and relays the bricks flat all at the same time. And you can set it up to, I believe it's 80 feet wide from gutter to gutter if you have a road and so on.
I just have a introductory preliminary questions, because I'm seeing, and I'm gonna paint with a broad brush, and I hate to do that, but that we have brick streets that have been covered with asphalt. And those are the ones where from time to time you see the asphalt popping up. To remove the asphalt and either to turn the bricks or to remove any asphalt residue, to reset them in some fashion, initially strikes me as being very bold and aspirational. That's big. That's restoring brick exposed streets. What I'm mainly concerned about are the brick streets that are already exposed. Okay? And my question is, if certain of the exposed brick streets around the village are going to be given some kind of preservation status, not sure yet what the criteria will be for that, but assuming that there is a criteria, does that not imply that there will be other exposed brick streets that don't fall into the preservation designation and they will be overlaid with asphalt? Now, if what you say, and I tend to agree with it just from my gut, that brick streets add value to property, including empty lots. That's why these towns are lining up. They're redoing brick streets because they're aesthetically pleasing and because they bring a certain ambiance to where they are laying them. But if it adds value to the preservation areas, is there not an implication that if we go in and overlay brick streets with asphalt, we depreciate the value of those properties? And so my question is, who are the winners? Who are the losers? Are there certain folks, because they have a big old house, they get a brick street, but someone with a modest house on a brick street, we play the old lifeboat game? Sorry. I mean,
No, and
so I guess I'm asking a preliminary question, a threshold question of why are we assuming when you're raising the question of a preservation district for streets, have we not made an assumption that we're going to save some and not others? And what if people don't want to make that assumption? What if, like the people in Wilmington, who 90%, not 80, but 90% agree all streets with brick pavers should be preserved?
I think there's a simple answer. Just don't cover any bricks. And then whatever looks like it would be good and easy to remove, do it. But have a cardinal rule, we're not gonna cover any existing brick street.
So in
It's
that,
what we're known for. It'd be like the folks in St. Louis tearing down the arch. I mean,
Yeah, is there a cleaner way to mill a street that's got asphalt on it than what they did out on National Avenue?
I'll have to look into that. That's something I'll have to do some research on. I don't have an answer for you right at the moment.
Cause that was rough going down through there.
they grooved up the bricks too.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending on the depth and where they set that thing, it can, if they go too deep, they can groove the bricks.
And
Still, the other side of those bricks is still in excellent shape. So
Right.
the one thing that I would say to your query, which I agree 100% with what you're saying. I personally believe that every street that has brick on it should be restored to 100% brick. That's my personal feelings. So that's why in the amendment that I'm proposing to the maintenance plan, it says that any brick street that the street department or is decided is deemed beyond repair, that road would have to be brought to the city commission. The residents who live on that street, and a post would have to be made in the paper of a public hearing. And then that brick street would have to be brought to the commission. The people of the town would have a voice because it would be posted as a public hearing in the newspaper. The people that live on that street would have a voice because they will be able to come and speak. And then the city commission would have to vote to purposely asphalt over that road or to destroy that road.
And those would be roads outside of this historic
Those would
preservation
be the
area,
roads-
road areas?
Yes, sir. Now, if you look, in my little write-up that I do on why we should have these brick streets, our brick streets are from 120 to 100 years old, almost all of them. So that classifies them, according to the National Register, as historic streets. So if we wanted to, we could classify every brick street in Fort Scott as a historic brick street and encompass the entire town with one general, because they all fit within the listing for the National Register is that the brick streets have to be at least 50 years old.
Is there any kind of funding that would qualify for having a historic district of brick streets, or?
There are
Doesn't matter.
grants that we can apply for. And I've talked with Rob Harrington about that, and he's looked at other cities that have done this, and there is grant funding available. It's not a tremendous amount, but we can write those grants and apply for that funding. And then we can pick a few sections a year that we consider deemed the worst possible roads, completely restore those, but at the same time, like the city crews have already been doing, we can go around, continue to raise these potholes, fix the areas that are bad, re-sand them. They're gonna last forever. I've already asked Brad about the possibility of hiring at least one individual whose job would be from here on out to be a guy dedicated to repairing the potholes. There used to be a gentleman in town that was his job. I've talked with him a couple times. Apparently, up until 1999 when he retired, that's what he used to do all the time, was go around town and fix the worst potholes, pull the bricks up, re-sand. They have a trailer sitting out there. It's still set up because it's the same trailer apparently, from my understanding, that he used to use. Has a brick saw in it, has all the implements, so you hook it to a truck, he can drive wherever, and he can fix these potholes nonstop. After that gentleman retired in 1999, from my understanding, no one was ever hired to refill that position. And little to no, until very recently, has been done on those brick streets. I want to applaud our city and the guys for what they have done just in the last few weeks. If you have not yet taken the opportunity to drive around and see some of the areas they fixed, but they have done a great job. And I just want to encourage them that what they did was noticed. I've gotten many calls from the people of this town about how happy they are to see work being done on those brick streets. But yes, Mr. Gentry, I agree that every street in town that was a brick street ought to be a brick street again, because they're Fort Scott bricks. They're not Buffalo bricks. They're not bricks from Toledo, Ohio. They were the bricks that were made here in Fort Scott. Our bricks were sent everywhere else. These streets that are made of bricks in other towns were Fort Scott bricks. We're one of the very few towns, and as I've stated in here, and I've stated multiple times, I've been told that in 1952, we were referenced in multiple publications as the city of brick streets, because we had more brick streets per capita than any other city. That was before they started paving over those brick streets. And that is something nationally Fort Scott was once known for. And I would like to see us known as that again, because we bill ourselves as historic Fort Scott. People come to this town, and anything we can do to enhance that history and draw more tourism in, I think only benefits the community. But it should not just be one particular section. In my mind, everyone has the right to live on a brick street. And every street that was a brick street should be a brick street again.
Matt, another question.
Yes, sir.
When you're talking about designating an area for historic brick streets, are you talking about just the streets? It's not affecting the houses or anything else around it? Or is it just,
Unless we did.
how do they do this on the?
Up in Kansas City, there's a couple places, and out in Wichita, there are a couple places that when they designated these districts, they made them what they called a historic homes district. So they put in it homes and streets. So they claimed the whole area. That locked those people in who did any work on those homes to follow historic guidelines in their restorations but it also allowed the people who owned those homes to be able to apply for historic grants to do work on their houses, as long as it was done to HSA restoration guidelines. So,
If we didn't want to take that on, could there be some consideration of just the street? Yeah, we got that. Just the street?
we, as the city, we can do whatever we want. So if we want to claim the streets as the historic thing, then we have the right to do it.
Right.
But like I said, according to what I found out from the National Register, 50 years is the precedent. So if we wanted to claim, as long as we have, homes 50 years or older on those streets, you can claim almost any of these streets. In fact, you can claim every street. You can claim every street in town that has bricks as a historic brick street, because we fall into the classification for that.
Can you summarize, because we're getting near our going home time, can you tell us what it is the city commission is specifically asking us to do? Are we being asked to consider whether we should have this preservation of Brick Street distinction, the haves, the have-nots, as an initial threshold question?
That,
Or has the ship already sailed on that one, and now we're just left inputting which streets we think should remain brick and which ones can do whatever you want with?
no, what I'm sure all of you realize, and what I hope the people of this town realize, is that they have the right, the citizens have the right to determine what we do with these streets. And if the people of this town want all of the streets dictated as historic brick streets, then that's what the city commission has to do. If we get a survey done and 80% of the people, 90% of the people in Fort Scott say, save all the brick streets, then the city commission is beholden to the citizens to do what the citizens, because the citizens are the ones who have elected us to put in place the policies. So if that's the determination, then that's the determination that the city commission has to listen to the citizens and do what they're requesting.
Right.
Right now, we're looking for guidance moving forward. That's why I'm asking y'all to talk to everybody that you know.
Sure.
If it comes to the point, then I want everybody in this town to write a letter to every city commissioner. We'll copy everybody on it, and we'll let the city commission know how important these brick streets are to the people of this town. And that will dictate
Yeah,
that we
that
have
would be
to do
good.
it that way.
We're not really set up to do surveys.
No.
It would be nice if we could, but just as an advisory board. But we certainly are set up to hold meetings where we would invite folks to come and have input, if that's what the advisory board wants. Sure. To hear from the folks and then from that, we can report back to the city commission, at least what was initially brought out here. Now, that does not prevent them from also contacting the commissioners directly, but I don't know. You think people would come to this group and
You put in a venue where maybe like, for example, around college or
okay,
Warhol,
okay,
get publicity out and bring them.
okay. Is that, I guess the worst would be nobody shows up, but,
Right.
they would have in a phone booth, oh no, they don't have phone booths anymore. All right. Does it sound like that's something we might want to consider putting on our March agenda?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Would that be enough time? We could get the word out and at least kind of get a ball rolling and all right. Well, we will do that. We will do that.
Now, in line with that, I think the city commission already has, to correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we say in the past that we were in favor of not covering any brick streets?
Correct.
Correct.
So they know that we're saying stop.
Yeah.
Don't go any further. So we
Correct.
got that hurdle covered. And they know
Course,
that.
It all changed, the city commission changed, so.
Well, I can tell you though that, yes, Ralph, and I think I could go back and dig through and find the minutes
Yeah.
where the interim city manager, Mark McCoy, at our request, agreed to convey that to the city commission.
That's right.
So there would not be any ambiguity about it. And, so,
That's step number one is done.
right.
Well, but that, like, Mr. Culler just said, that was the previous commission and the previous city manager, so you may want to direct the current city manager to make a point of letting the city commission know again what that decision was from the street advisory committee
Right.
about that.
And it never changed. It's been since we first got together.
Sure.
It was to, the exposed brick streets should remain exposed brick streets.
Okay. One quick question, Matthew. Do you know, or can we get a list of streets that were berthed in asphalt that weren't brick streets, so people aren't getting an idea that that could be a brick street if it's never been? I don't know.
He's trying to find out which asphalt streets don't have brick under them.
Right.
I'll have to do some research.
Yeah, because we don't want to give people false hope either. Yeah.
Some of the east-west streets on the west side over there are not brick.
Yeah, and I think ours up there in Crescent Drive and Archer never were either.
Those weren't, and I have
Yeah.
I'm getting access to a map.
Oh, okay.
Fred Campbell says that he had.
Okay.
We just haven't located yet. That
Okay.
shows all of the roads that were originally done in brick up through 1940 something. The brick plant closed in 1938, but there was still a substantial amount of bricks on hand.
Okay.
So my understanding is that in up to 1940, they had a layout of the streets and all the ones that were brick and the ones that were still dirt.
Okay.
So, yes, I'm going to continue to do
Great.
that.
I think a good rough figure is to look where there is curb and gutter. The formed concrete curb and gutter, in fact, there was brick put there.
Basically, they're the same.
There was or was not.
If there's no curb and gutter there,
Designation of the
it probably
arterial.
wasn't brick.
Okay, so the curb gutter held the brick in place? Okay.
Yeah.
I know that we had this limestone over there too, so yeah.
In every case that I've checked, that's been the case. Curb and gutter delineates the bricks were put there.
Okay.
Yeah, but this may
Yes, sir.
be
We will
a
continue
few
to
changes.
dig on that, and I'll
Suggested
suggest other pieces we know more about which streets were done that way. We can get a list together.
Yeah, because if we continue with the process we're wanting to do with the brick streets, it may take a while to get this legitimized, but we still need our street crews out there on the asphalt ones that don't have brick under them. So, yeah, if we can get them keep rolling, that's going to be, we have about a month we're going to be raising bricks, and then we're going to go to the asphalt repair. So,
Right, yes.
There's a neat example on Loman Street. If you go to the north end of Loman at Second, it's brick, and it goes about 3 blocks, and then the bricks are covered, and that's where it's laying loose for 2 blocks. I think you could take a jail crew over there in one half day, with these roofing shovels, you know that.
yeah.
Well, there's several of those streets on the east
At the
side.
end of the day, you have to count the shovels to make sure.
Yeah.
They have all been returned. At the end of the day, you have to count the shovels to make sure all of them were returned.
That's right, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ralph, yeah, there's several streets on the east side of town that you'll have a block of asphalt, and then it'll go brick, and then another block of asphalt. And I don't know if you can mill those up and make them look good, but
Get them kind of uniform.
yeah.
I recall when they covered Andrew Street. It was the smoothest brick street in town, and they covered it with asphalt.
Yeah, it gets hardly no traffic.
Now, they were going to start over there and work all the way across and cover everything with asphalt.
Somebody wanted to go 40 miles an hour on that street. That's what.
Hendrick and Arthur were both perfect. In fact, those east side streets where they have alleys, where the heavy trucks went down the alleys and hauled the trash, they were all really, really smooth. But we got them first. They're coming.
And there's been a question asked to me, what do we do about preserving the brick streets once we get them fixed from the heavy freight traffic and from the trash trucks. So the idea that was presented by Pete is that we establish what a truck route is, and we ask these truck drivers, we ask these trash trucks to only drive down the alleys and on designated truck routes. And if there is a need for some reason to bring heavy equipment down a brick street, then we get them a special permit, we charge them a fee, we let them bring it down, we put that money right back into the brick restoration.
Are there no alleys? We could require lighter trucks, you know, smaller. And there are lots of those people in town who have the smaller trucks.
But again, if we, as the city, if we decide we want to establish a truck route and say that, for instance, if we use the downtown area, we tell the trucks they have to come in on Third Street and then they have to go down the two alleys or National, and we make that the rule, then the truckers have to abide by that rule. And that way we save our downtown bricks from a lot of the heavy traffic.
Well, I'm gonna be the mean guy and have to break up this wonderful conversation. I will be attempting, I guess, to go to the city commission meeting on Tuesday next and carry the memo. Commissioner Pete Allen is here as well. I think his presence has to do with the pavement condition index, the PCI, for our streets, and wanting to know what the advisory board, what kind of input we can have, whether we can take the 7 wards in town and each of us be assigned to one of those wards to do that. I don't know how qualified we would be to give those ratings. Some I think would be very qualified, and others.
All you have to do is drive down the street and then put a 3 or 2 or 1.
Well, wait. Why would you even have to drive down the street? You could just put a 3 or a 2 or a 1, right? Yeah. But what I've asked Commissioner Allen is if the city commission wants to give that as assignment to us, then they can give us
what we
more
can do
specifics.
now. We did, and it would be good verification so that you guys. It would be like Pete says, you maybe a little learning curve plus input. Jerry did have the guys go out this week and they did rate the streets that Pete gave us on that list. But take that list and we can generate that for you, and you guys go out and see if you think it is a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or the condition it's in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got the list that he's given us.
Updated, Cleat did a study,
Okay.
and I included all that on these new ones. But what I had in mind is if the commission okays it, I just gave Charles the 7 wards, our list of streets in each ward that need to be rated. And there's information on that sheet that each one could
The street crew just rated them this last week or this week.
They did 700,000 blocks.
Would you take a motion?
Yeah.
I would.
Myself and 2 other guys has been driving around all over town rating these streets. So.
I would personally defer to that guy.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, honestly.
I've made the inventory.
Yeah.
Without that information, the inventory is worthless.
No, they did it on your sheets.
If you've done that, then I would like to see that added to the inventory.
Yeah, yeah, they're done on your sheets. So they've been rated on your sheets, and I've been figuring out square footages on some of the real bad roads. So
Is the previous tour that what's his name, the county commissioner did for us about a year ago still of any value?
Yeah, he just did a few streets.
He covered the whole town. I think he did.
He may have.
And we've got a report of it. City Hall should have that report. I have a report.
Well, we need to put the inventory together.
Yeah.
We've
Okay.
got that information.
Okay, and then let the city commission decide if they need anything more. They may not from us, but if they do, then they can decide what specifically they need. Is there anything else? Anything else from the audience? No?
Should we make a determination to him that if they should need us to split into 7 parts and do a survey, we'll do it.
Right, well, the commission would have to decide that,
If they
you know,
decide.
recommend that.
So,
But they may already have the information that we would be out there. I mean,
it would help me, I stay out of the pool hall, I lose money. Okay, well, anyway, you know our attitude about this, and you know that we're ready to help however we can.
Sure.
I'm so impressed by this study, I just can't believe it.
You've done a good
thank
job.
you, Matt.
Yep,
Thank you. Very good, very good, very good.
I'd say double his pay as a Was that $2?
What
I
is
was,
the
I was
next
wondering
one?
with all this brick activity, if the city needs to consider hiring a chiropractor. But,
When is the next meeting?
the next meeting will be the second Thursday in March. And I don't have a calendar.
It's gonna be the 10th, March the 10th.
March the 10th. All right. Very good. And I'll try to get something written up and turned in for inviting folks to come to our March 10th meeting, right?
How are you gonna get it out?
Well, I don't know. That means
That's why they do
Okay.
everything anymore.
that means somebody other than me, Cleve. But I'll get something to you, okay? All right, we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
You guys are doing all of the motions? and-
All
Right. One, two,
All right,
punch.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Very well, by the way.
Gary, I'm Kelly Bill.
I know quite a bit about you.
Well, hopefully we're doing well.
My friend Bob tells me a lot. He says you're doing a good job.
Well, we keep moving forward with things, well, we're gonna make an impact.
Yeah, I read your bio on the paper. It's very impressive.
Yeah. Covered a mile or two.
Yeah, well, so have I.
Good stuff.